Boxstar TV, we're here with the one and only champ, Hannah Rankin. How you doing, darling?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Fresh off a win in Scotland. Tell us a little bit about that fight. It was a one round TKO. So how do you feel after that victory?
Yeah, I'm really happy. First TKO, so very pleased. It was 59 seconds. It was over in a flash. Just kind of hoping for a little bit more time, but you don't get paid for overtime, so I'm happy.
So you a lot of people don't know about you in the UK, and in the US we're going to give you a little bit more exposure. So female boxing is on the rise. Now in the UK, people talk about Katie Taylor and Nicola Adams, but no one knows about the Hannah Rankin. Tell us a little bit something about yourself, darling. So we need to know about you.
So I'm originally from Scotland. I've been boxing now for coming up for 4.5 years. I started in the white collar scene and decided to turn professional. And I've been living in London for the last 7 years, and that's where I'm based now.
So you made your way to London. I mean, obviously, you said you've been boxing for 4 years. I know you personally, so I know about your journey. But for our viewers who don't know you, I mean, you kind of came to the unlicensed rank, but you come out of with no amateur experience. Do you see the difference between having no amateur experience and then going to pro rank? Has that affected you a little bit, or not really?
It's not affected me. I'm really good with I'm really diligent with practice, and my coach and I work really hard to make sure I'm working hard on that, so it's not a problem. Coming from the white collar scene, I was kind of taught kind of a more pro style by Derek and Noel, so going into the pro game actually worked really well for me. I was never going to be an amateur boxer with a fast movement and stuff like that, so yeah, no, it worked fine.
So you mentioned Dirk, guy I know very well, and obviously I know Noel very well, your coach. You're managed by Dirk Williams, former heavyweight Commonwealth champ, and obviously a seasoned pro who fought against the likes of Lennox Lewis. So what has he been like to you as a mentor and someone who's guided your career?
Well, he's the guy that really got me into boxing. When I moved to London, I started with Thai boxing, but when my coach left, I was handed over to Derek, and he really inspired me to get into the sport, and I kind of fell in love with it. Since then, I've been working with him and Noel, and we're now about to fight for my 6th professional fight, so it's a great team, and I'm really proud to be part of it, actually.
So Derek coming from a heavyweight background, but obviously he's a seasoned veteran. When he fought, obviously one of his most notable fights was when he fought against Lennox Lewis, and obviously he lost his Commonwealth belts to Lewis. Has there been any sort of really inside tips that he's given you that's helped you, or is it his presence? What's really helped you in his guidance?
Obviously he's really inspiring. He's won the Commonwealth title, he's won a European title. He was one of the main sparring partners for Tyson, so yeah, he's got a wealth of knowledge, and he always passes that over on to me and just helps me keep calm before I go out to the ring. He's at every single one of my fights. He comes into the dressing room, we talk it through, we take a few deep breaths, and gives me his game plan, and we work towards a few of those things as well in the fight. So yeah, no, he's a great mentor and fantastic to work with.
Now you say you're on your 6th fight. Your record is 4-1. You had 1 loss. Let's talk about that loss for a moment. I mean, it was always a very close and contentious decision. But you walked away from that with your head held high. You didn't seem like you were bitter about that decision.
No, I mean, to be honest, I personally felt I won that fight. My team felt I won that fight, and a lot of people there were of the opinion that I won that fight. So it was a little bit frustrating to have to come back with a loss on my record when I definitely felt I won it. However, I came back strong, and I won this belt right after that. So no loss to me, really.
That's a beautiful strap you got around your shoulder. Tell us about that belt there. I mean, that's an international belt there.
Yeah, it's an international challenge belt. It's my first professional title that I won. I ended up headlining at York Hall for it, and I had a fantastic crowd there, so it was a really amazing experience.
Now, you're no stranger to York Hall, because you fought also on the white collar scene at York Hall, and it's one or 2 shows we know about. So you're no stranger to York Hall. I mean, the small hall, but it's a great fighting venue.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of my favourite places to watch fights at and to actually box on. Really lucky to box there in the white collar scene. Before I turned pro, I didn't actually believe I'd be headlining there so early on in my professional career. That was an amazing experience. Derek said to me that it's his favourite place to box. He's been all over the world boxing, and he says York Hall's his favourite, and I've got to agree. The atmosphere is amazing, the audience are really, really close, so you feel like it's really exciting.
That's right.
So yeah, one of my favourite places, definitely.
I want to touch upon something that's pretty interesting here, because we talked about female boxing off air, and it's on the rise. And obviously, Katie Taylor is smashing it in England, and she's now won a title, and she's quite big in the States now. Nicola Adams has gone a bit quiet, but she's in America doing her thing, and she's under Frank Warren. You're promoted by an independent agency. What's your view on women's boxing? I mean, obviously in the UK, it's really taken off. I mean, what sort of tips do you have for other female boxers who are trying to make their way into the boxing scene?
Well, the female scene in the UK is still quite small. There's about 15 to 17 of us who are professional. And in comparison to Europe and Germany, there's just like a lot of professional females over there. So definitely would be encouraging more girls to come through the amateur ranks and then look to go professional. But yeah, no, it's exciting, and there's lots to be, like, loads of things to be explored, and hopefully if we get more girls involved, there'll be some more domestic titles for us. And I mean, I'm looking at hopefully getting a British title. That would be an amazing thing to be instated for us. So fingers crossed there, and then maybe we'll get some more domestic titles like Southern Area titles or Midlands titles. And then, yeah, there'll be more titles for girls to actually pick up before we get straight to European and Commonwealth, which is what it is at the moment.
I mean, you know, as you look at the women who are fighting globally, you're obviously staking your claim. What's the next step for Hannah Rankin? You're obviously going to Scotland. You're April 7th. You're going to be fighting for a title, the Commonwealth title there. A bit of history to be made there. Yeah. So you'll be the first female, British female, to fight for the Commonwealth title belt. If you win it, you'll be the first female champion of the Commonwealth I think in its history, you know, or at least for a while.
No, I'll be the first ever UK female to fight for the Commonwealth title.
Wow.
It's going to be in Scotland. Obviously, that's my home. I'm so proud it's going to be there, so can't wait for that fight. Yeah, I'm going to make a little bit of history. That'll be my history. Nobody else has ever done that, so that's also really, really exciting. Yeah, after we've won that, we'll see where we go. But obviously, my goal is to fight for the European as well, and then I'll be following in Derek's footsteps. And I obviously look up to him a lot, so it'd be really nice to achieve that.
So you're fighting in Scotland. The girl you're fighting is no mug either. She's a tough girl. She's a tough cookie from Africa. I don't know much about this girl. Tell me a little bit about her, because she's quite a tough character. She's been around for a while.
Yeah, no, her name's Julie Shabalala. She's 3-time South African champ, and she's also fought for 2 world titles. Yeah, she's currently ranked above me in the Commonwealth ranks, so it's going to be a good fight. We've got 10 rounds, so I don't expect it to end very soon, like very quickly. So yeah, no, it'll be a good fight for everybody there.
And how's your preparation, your training going?
Really well, thanks. I've started getting really into camp now, and it's good to be back focusing on things and with a goal in mind, so really excited. I tried
to catch up with you last week, but apparently you was sparring with another champion that's gone to the States now. I mean, you've been getting some really quality sparring in over the last several months. Every time I get contact with Noel, you're sparring Team GB guys, and I mean, that must be a wealth of experience for you.
Yeah, no, because I'm learning on the job, it means that my sparring is really important to me. It helps me improve so much. So, like, we travel all over Europe to get sparring. I spar quite a lot with Christina Hamer. I'm her main sparring partner. She's based over in Germany. She's the world middleweight champ for WBC WBO.
Right.
Also spar with Michaela Lauren. She's 5 times world champ for Super-Welterweights. She's over in Sweden. Yep. And also I work with Chantal Cameron, who's based in London here. So yeah, no, it's good. I get a good variety of sparring, and I'm not adverse to travelling for it. You know, if you want to be the best, you've got to learn from the best.
So for our viewers who don't know about, you know, the female boxing game, I mean, obviously the pool is a lot smaller than the men's. Yeah. So hence that means you have to travel not only for sparring but for fights. So sometimes fights can be hard to come by. Yeah. How have you been finding opponents?
No, well, the category for us is obviously there's a lot less in the Super-Welterweight division, and you know, that in some ways is in its favour. You get a chance at things a bit earlier, but then also it does mean that the pool's quite small, so you'll come across each other maybe often more than once. So yeah, it can be a bit difficult sometimes. Yeah,
and I was talking to Noel a little while ago. In one of your previous fights, you had a very frustrating time. I think when you were 3-0, your opponent was on the verge of pulling out, and you've had to deal with nonsense such as last-minute cancellations, or people pulling out, or people withdrawing for all kinds of stuff, finding opponents in the last moment. Has it been a frustrating rise to your current status, or your stock rising, or have you just been biding your time?
No, I've been slowly working through it. I mean, actually getting off the ground was the hardest part. I had, for my pro debut, I had like 2 cancellations in the lead up to that actually happening. So it did mean that by the time I actually got to do my pro debut, I've been prepped twice for it. And we ended up taking the number 7 in Europe for my first fight, which is pretty unheard of. That wouldn't happen in the guys' game, but by that point I was just like, give me someone to fight. I actually want to get on and going.
You've been training for 3 months, I gotta get to fight somebody.
I'm ready to go.
Right. And I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and she's doing a white collar fight in March. And she's a very lovely girl, but she's not very aggressive in the ring. And I spoke to her that I was coming to see you for an interview, and she wanted me to ask you, how do you go from being peaceful and quiet and humble to the absolute animal in the ring? What changes, what switches on for you when you get into that sparring mode or in fight mode?
Well, for me, I have a routine, so I go through particular songs in my warm-up that help me get in the zone and help me to focus. And certain ways of warming up as well helps me to get like really focused and feel a little bit more aggressive. Also, if you're in their sparring, you can't go in there with the mindset that, oh well, whatever happens happens. You've got to go in there and you've got to own it, like, you know, and that'll boost your confidence. You know, you shouldn't be willing to take shots just because you don't feel like it, you know?
Right.
It should always be a competitive, and then once you step out, you can be friends again. But in the ring, that's work, you know?
Right.
So you've got to be really focused.
I hear that. I mean, what people don't know about you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're actually a classical musician by day. And that's bugged out because you're a musician, a classical musician, not even like a hip hop artist, a classical musician, and you're a fighter by night. I mean, like, that's like, I mean, like amazing in itself. I mean, how do you adjust from playing some Beethoven tunes and now all of a sudden going to knock somebody's head off their shoulders?
Yeah, well, for me, the two actually work really well together.
Really?
That sounds crazy, but like, so in music, I'm performing on stage in an orchestra, and that's just as exciting as like in boxing when I get in and perform in the ring. You've got to be able to perform at that moment there, and you've got a big audience there who want to watch you and are excited about it. So for me, it's all about the performance.
Right.
But they both work really well together. You've got to be disciplined in practicing. You've got to be disciplined with boxing for practicing stuff for that as well. So for me, the crossover is quite similar, but. Yeah, if I come from doing rehearsal with my quintet, I've got to give myself half an hour kind of like break off with a music chat, and then now I'm boxing. Because otherwise I get a little bit kind of caught up in it.
So have you actually come from doing your classical bit and then gone from that straight to like sparring and training?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So like when you said earlier you use certain music or certain tracks to just zone out into your sparring and your fighting, but you're a classical musician, so you're not exactly listening to Beethoven when you go in the ring. What sort of track, give me some heads up, what sort of music you listen to before you go in the zone? Like some Led Zeppelin or some shit like that?
No. So my walkout tune is Roy Jones Jr., Can't Be Touched. That's
okay.
a big favourite of mine.
All right.
That always gets me in the zone. Quite like a lot of the rock tunes as well. So just some of the usual standard boxing stuff that you hear when you go to boxing matches. Actually, it gets you really like psyched up. So it's good to listen to these things.
So the classical musician is also a hip hop fiend at heart.
Yeah.
All right, don't tell anybody that. All right, that's between me and you and the millions of people who are watching this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this next fight coming April 7th is a very exciting fight. The world is sort of your oyster because obviously your stock is rising. It's kind of hard to think ahead because the danger about any fighter is thinking too far in advance, and you always focus on the next opponent.
Yeah.
What is the pinnacle for Hannah Rankin? Where do you see yourself a year from now, 2 years from now? What is the ultimate goal for you?
I want to be the Commonwealth champion. That's my goal, and that's where I'm aiming to go. Me and my team are aiming for that. So we're going to start first, get this Commonwealth title, and then slowly go up from there. At
154, are you dropping down to 147?
I'd like to get a title at 154, and then I'd like to drop down to 147.
So you want to get a world title at 150? Would it be harder going from 154 to 147? I would have thought you'd gone the reverse.
No, I think for me, I could drop down to welterweight. That would suit me. So just now we're going to stick in Super-Welterweight and see how I want to do with that, and then we'll look to go down potentially.
You're definitely not going up to 160?
No.
So when you went to 154, was that by design, or was it because your frame handled the 154 easier than the 147?
So for example, Triple G walks around at his kind of fight weight. He's really close to his fight weight, and he is an absolute monster. And he's got all that power from there. He never drains himself to get any lower. He hasn't got to bulk himself up. He is what he is, and then he works from his strength there. And we kind of went on that sort of system. So I walk around just a little bit above Super-Welterweight. So for me, it seems to be the optimum weight at the moment for me to try.
Okay, so your fight is obviously on an independent channel. Who are you managed by now?
So I'm managed by Derek Williams.
Okay.
I don't have a big promoter behind me. It's just me and my team. So Derek and Noel. And I'm going to be on the MTK Scotland show. for this next fight. Massive thank you to them for having me on the show. Obviously, being Scottish has helped,
right?
Which is good. But
but you're not part of MTK Global.
No, not part of that. No. So they're a management company. So I already have a manager with Derek.
Right. And there's no way they can pinch you from Derek. That's not happening.
Oh no. Exactly.
No, that mean right hand he still packs.
No, that's definitely not going to happen.
So how do we give our viewers a little bit of how we can follow you and what sort of how the viewers can follow you on what sort of media channels?
Fantastic. So obviously you can find me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram at H_ULLA, and you can find me on Twitter at BoxingNumberSunin. You got both there.
So I mean, just to, as a sort of summation here, I mean, you're fighting for this title. It's a Commonwealth title. It's a big deal. It's a massive deal. That should sort of propel you for the next step. What is the next step after this Commonwealth title, if you are victorious, which you hope you are on April 7th?
So I'm looking to defend the title, and then also for me the goal would be, like I said, to go towards the European, like Derek did as well. So have both of those as my titles for the next kind of goals.
Right. So Commonwealth, European, and then World.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, okay.
But obviously it will depend what happens. So
yeah.
You never know what's going to happen in boxing.
That's right. But that's the sort of plan you're following.
That's what I'd like to achieve. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, if a British title became available before that, I would love to fight for that.
Any sort of words of advice because you would like to give to some of the young female fighters who are out there? Because it's grown in the UK, and the UK has done a fantastic job with its amateur ranks. Obviously, with the likes of Katie Taylor and Nicola Adams really showcasing how good British boxing has become at the amateur level. Although you didn't come from the amateur scene, what sort of advice would you give to any female boxer who's trying to go into the pro ranks?
I think believe in yourself and trust in the process of it. Be patient and also get a really good team around you. If you have a good team, there's so much more that's achievable. Like I rely on my team really heavily to help me get to where I need to go, and they're a big part of what you want to achieve. So get a good team around you, people you trust, and work really hard. Put yourself outside of your comfort zone. Go and spar with people that are better than you, because you can only learn from that. That's one of the most important things, I think. That's what I do anyway to improve myself.
Well, you heard it best from Miss Hannah Rankin. Look, baby, I wish you all the best. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for Scotland, but I'll be there for the next one in London. We're all rooting for you here at Boxstar, and basically we're going to be promoting you as much as we possibly can, and we look forward to seeing you more in the future.
Thank you so much.
Peace out.